Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Construction Online webinar on OnPoint Proposals and our brand new Docusign integration. I'm Holly Gibson, and I'm joined today by my colleague Carly Orlando.
Hello.
And we are excited to share with you all about creating proposals and getting them signed in Construction Online. Now, for anyone who is new to Construction Online is our leading construction software platform trusted by over 950,000 professionals all over the world to do things like create estimates, manage projects, manage schedules, communicate with their team. And for today, we are going to focus primarily on how you can use Construction Online to create professional standout proposals from the information that you're putting in. Carly, I know you have some great things planned for us today. What will we really be focusing on for today's webinar?
Yeah, and Holly, I'm so happy to be here today. So, I am a senior success coordinator here at UDA Technologies, helping companies get started with construction online. And one thing that I always get questions about is how can I set up my proposals to be professional, reflect my company's brand, and more. So, today we're going to focus on creating, customizing, and sending those proposals and integrating with Docusign so you can easily get signatures back from your clients and make that whole bidding or proposal process so much easier at just a few clicks of a button.
That sounds really excited and a lot of great content for us to jump into. I know when we're thinking about kind of the proposal process as well as, what comes next. So you're making the proposal, you're sending that out for signature, and we have some great new options for that with our DocuSign integration. But maybe as we get started, Carly, we just back up a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about proposals just in the context of construction online? Like where do they fit in? What is a proposal in our system?
Yeah, so that's a great question and kind of a great jumping point for talking about proposals. Now, when we're thinking of proposals, at least specifically in Construction Online, this is taking your Construction Online estimate and creating a blueprint for that estimate that you can pass on to your client for the project before any work is completed or actually begins. So we all know it as the formal document that is submitted by a contractor to a potential client, outlining things like the scope of work, costs, timeline, and other essential details. Usually, this starts as the starting point for your contracts.
Okay, I gotcha. And so in construction online, well, when would a proposal normally be made, or can you make more than one in the system?
Absolutely. So proposals usually come about still when you're kind of in the pre-construction phase. Now, that can be at various stages in pre-construction, depending on the context of the job. For example, some companies may pass it along before any work begins at all. Others may do it during the initial financing stage when they're trying to collect financing for potential development projects. Others may have multiple proposals that go back and forth as part of a negotiation phase with the client. So, really, it's anything that you are passing along to the client to write down the scope, talk about how you're going to do the job during that initial phase of getting that client relationship built and starting on making yourself the contractor for their position.
That makes sense. Well, I know with the OnPoint Proposal Wizard, there are a ton of options in within that we'll be able to go over today. And I think one of the reasons why we built such a powerful proposal generator is because we know the importance of proposals. I know, Carly, you work so much with clients day to day. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what you see or hear in terms of just like the importance of proposals overall? I know sometimes we might be tempted to think of them as just like a formality, like, okay, we're basically just kind of printing up the estimate, but that's not really it. And of course you can generate a document that's so much more than that, using the proposal wizard here. But why would we want to do that? Like, what are you hearing from folks in terms of just the importance of proposals in general?
Yeah, and I think what you brought up actually is a really good point because many contractors, especially ones that are first starting out with the system, do kind of think of proposals as more a formality or a box to check. It's just a means to an end to get from point A to point B. But really, it's so much more than that because the proposals set the tone for the client relationship. As we talked about, proposals are sent along with the pre construction process. So they kind of act as a first impression for your client. So having a proposal that's well organized or well designed or represents your company's brand is really one of the first examples that you can give your client of how much effort you put into a job. If you throw together a proposal and just kind of type it up in Word and send it off, sure, it may work, but that's not going to show the same level of detail as if you are really careful with the way that you're wording things. You're going in and making sure that it's formatted well in a presentable manner, that you're going in and including all the levels of detail that are relevant for you and your clients. So they can really provide that insight into brand credibility, your level of professionalism. A poor proposal can result in failing to close an opportunity, even. You may risk miscommunication or missed opportunities because they decide to go with somebody else whose proposal just looks that much more put together. You can even leave potential poor impressions on clients, which can lead to bad word of mouth reviews.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty important. I know for me, some of my favorite feedback that we get from people will be, things like we'll sometimes have someone like maybe leave us a review or just, kind of in conversation, people will say like, "Hey, actually the proposals are so good. I think I've won jobs because of how detailed they are, because of how professional I've been able to put things together." So that type of feedback we definitely love to hear. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. I know one thing, we wanted to kind of talk about. I know the goal for this webinar really is to show people how they can use Construction Online's OnPoint Proposal Wizard. So we'll be stepping through the all the how-tos and going over these options. But one quick thing as we dive in that I wanted to mention um, is, well, two things. One, as we're going through, of course, if you guys have any questions, feel free to submit those through the Q&A. We do have half an hour teed up for this webinar, so we may not be able to get to all of the questions, but we want to hear them from you. We'll get to as many as we can and follow up individually afterwards. But I'm going to go ahead and throw out one question because it's probably the most common question that I get around estimate and proposal creation, especially from new people, maybe just getting started or thinking about getting started with Construction Online, is they might look at an example estimate or proposal that I've done and say, "Oh, wow, that looks good, but I don't know if that'll work for me because I don't like to show my clients that much detail." Or they might say, "I don't think that'll work for me because I actually want to show my clients a lot more detail." And of course, then I backtrack a little bit and say, "Well, okay, you have those options." This is just my example, of course, because there's so many different ways you can do it. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the flexibility, Carly, as we jump into kind of going over some of these options?
Yeah, and I think that that's a really valid point to bring up, Holly, because that's something that I hear on the success side as well, as you probably hear talking with our potential clients. So, one thing that you have to keep in mind with the proposal is that with the estimate in Construction Online, it is spreadsheet based, and you can go in and add as much detail as you want, things like markups, prices, tax, overhead and margin, notes, descriptions. There's so much you can do with it. And I think a point of confusion or common point of confusion with clients is, well, I don't want to just show them a spreadsheet. And you absolutely do not have to with Construction Online. So if we're looking at the proposal generator and we're kind of looking at this left sidebar, you can pretty much customize everything on this proposal for yourself. So up here in the left, you can choose your document title. If you don't want it to say estimate proposal, you can adjust that. You can adjust the client text if you don't want it to say between the owner. Or maybe you are a subcontractor who is sending a proposal or a bid to a contractor. You could have the client text say between the contractor and the subcontractor. You can really go in and control how you're doing that. You can even do things like show project number.
So for example, here, it looks like on this proposal that we have pulled up just as a quick example, all those different line items do have a price shown, but we don't necessarily have to show that. So maybe let's go through step by step, how someone would create a proposal. And of course, how I got here was I just clicked on the option to generate a proposal. I think I chose the detailed option, which would preset some of these things for us, but really these options are always available.
Yeah, and you can go through and customize this as much as you want. One point of feedback I get really commonly is I don't like to show my clients my item prices. I just want to show them a general one for this category. So you can go in and you can show just the category totals. It'll still show them the subcategories and items, but you're not going to get line item pricing on that. You can also choose just to do any combination if you just want to show categories and items. If you want to go in and show categories only or categories and subcategories, you can do any combination, and each time you can just hit that update proposal wizard to go in and show those different sections.
That is really cool. Okay, so let's step back. Walk me through top to bottom. And what am I seeing here? So I notice it looks like on the right we have our preview, and
Mhm.
it looks like there's a button that comes up so you can kind of keep refreshing that. We have a great question coming in from someone who wants to know right here at the very top. So maybe we'll just start at the top and work our way down. But when we're looking at, so you said we could customize. What if I don't want mine to say estimate proposal? What if I just wanted this to say, for example, um, construction proposal or something like that? So I can just go in and change.
Yep. You can go in and adjust the client text and contractor text as well, so that between the owner and the contractor for the project section, that's going to pre-fill from your actual estimate itself.
So
As
if this was a residential job, I could say between the homeowner
right.
and the builder, for example, if I wanted to do that. And then now we update and then perfect. So now we've just changed what that looks like here at the top. Okay.
Right. Now, the under sections that you see, like between the homeowner, those options that pull in, like you can see, I have several users. That's actually going to pull from my list of client links. So if I have multiple client link users, it will pull in all the different names. Or if I only have the one, it will still pull in their information. The builder is going to pull from my company information that I've uploaded from ConstructionOnline. And the project information there is just going to pull in the project name and the address from the actual project details. So that is customizable, but it's all auto-filled from when you're actually building out the project itself.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's really doing as much as it can to pull in information I've already uploaded either in my account or for the project, and it's going to drop that right in. Now, I notice here if we're just going down the proposal, it looks like this first section here, our detail settings within the estimate is going to be a pretty important part of the proposal. It's controlling a lot. It looks like here in the scope of work, maybe you've got a placeholder in there. So if I wanted to get rid of that, I can just
You can do that, or you
uncheck.
can even click that box next to scope of work, and that's going to allow you to go in and customize it. So if I wanted to update that scope of work, maybe when I'm building the job, I don't have a ton of detail in there, but I can go in and add that detail later to customize it so that when I'm passing it along to my client as part of the proposal, they will get that update scope of work, which will also update it in the project details as well.
Okay, I see. And I've made this pretty short, but it looks like we could really make that scope of work as long as we needed it to be. So can we go through some of the options for controlling what's pulling in off the estimate? Because I do know that is where a lot of the questions come from, and you've touched on that a little bit already, but I do see a lot of options and checkboxes here. So currently we've set it to show categories only. So this is just showing the categories from our estimate and their totals.
Mhm.
But it looks like there's a lot of other customizations here that I could do. What are some of the common setups you see or things you think is important for us to go over?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. You can do any combination of categories, subcategories, and items. If you want to show, for example, just your items, you can go in and do that. You can also control which totals you're showing. So, for example, if I wanted to show all of them, categories, subcategories, and items, I can go in and show totals for each or go in and hide irrelevant ones. I can also choose to update things like quantity and unit cost if I want to show that in my estimate. So you can go in and add separate columns for quantity and unit cost. If I have item descriptions that I do not want to show, I can go in and hide those or choose to show those. I can also go in and show tax and dollar markup. Now I can either add those as separate columns or as part of the unit cost, which would be updated in there.
I see. And that's where we do start to get a little bit more of that spreadsheet look where if someone was wanting to pull in a lot of that detail off the estimate and include it in that type of layout, it looks like these are some good options for doing that. And or we could uncheck those and maybe not show a quantity and unit cost and go back to more of just like a total situation. And either way, it looks like it's updating pretty quickly there. Okay, so one question too that I had is I noticed with the description, let's see, maybe I'll go back and show the descriptions. It's actually kind of fun to uncheck the boxes and check them and update. And that's really one of the things that we recommend people do when they're new to using the OnPoint proposal wizard is get in there and work with it a little bit, find what's going to work for you. It's really easy to work with. But I noticed that like with the descriptions checked, so is that a description? So when we include the description, that's showing up underneath the item in a little bit different visual
Yes.
italics, it looks like there.
Yeah, some people like to use that description to include like either specifications for a specific line item if you're getting really into the detail, or they may use it just for like, for example, the building permit. Here we have a note that this is including that building permit application fee. So we don't have to worry about is there another one. It's just providing helpful, relevant info for the client or even more detailed information just so when they're reading that proposal, they're getting that insight.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so it looks like we've got some more options here related to things like selections, classification, even overhead and margin, which I know is also another big question. Like, okay, what about like, or is my client going to see what the all of my markup? Is that is that necessary? I know some people want to do that, some people don't. So tell me about the options we have kind of coming up next.
Yeah, so kind of the first next step is the detail settings for your selections. If you have selections in, you can go through and either show them their allowances, or you can go through and hide that selections table if it's not quite relevant yet. Or if you wanted to run a similar report like a selections book or something that would show all of the different selections more broken out, that is an option that you have available. You also have the option to go in and show classification totals and tax sections. So for example, if I wanted to show a classification totals box, I can add a breakdown at the very bottom that would break down all of my different material costs, labor costs, subcontractor, equipment, and any unclassified.
Now, where do the selections show? Okay, I see them. So the estimate comes first, and then the allowances or selections are happening next. Okay.
Right. You can also go in and when it comes to overhead and margin, you can either have a section in your proposal for it where it's company overhead and margin, or a lot of people like to prorate that or they don't want to include it. So you can go through and prorate it throughout the contract. That would just take those values and update each line item's cost to include that company overhead and margin. Or you can just do it as a lump sum at the end if you want to combine that overhead and margin cost so you're not overwhelming your clients with it.
I see. So really, if I'm doing more of like a fixed amount contract, I can prorate it. If maybe I'm a cost plus type of job, I might need or want to show that so that it can really accommodate both of those very well, it looks like.
Right. You also have this project total section. You can choose to hide this if you want. If you go through and hide it, it will hide that project totals. We don't really recommend doing it. However, if that is something that you feel like you would want to do, you can scroll to the bottom and that would just be hidden for you.
Gotcha. All right, so let's see. What about some of the additional breakdowns? Like I see here that we've got the classification total showing. but it looks like there's some other totals. Are they going to just show up at the bottom too, or similarly, or what happens if we're maybe wanting to break this down by room or phase or something like that?
Yeah, so those are all customizable fields within the estimate itself. You can go in and do things like customize the room associated with a line item, the phase, or the stage. You can either choose to include this in a breakdown table. So if you wanted to go in and say something to the effect of, like, hey, I want to show all of the costs broken out by room. At the bottom, similar that we have the class totals, we can go in and do the breakout down table, or we can choose to show a column in the proposal, which would give, again, more of that spreadsheet view.
I see. So it could show line by line the room or just a breakdown at the bottom. So if we update this here, just want to take a quick look at how that's going to show up. And we'll scroll back to the bottom. Don't want to make you guys dizzy, but there is a lot. I mean, it's very nice how much detail I can choose to include here. And then as we come to the end, let's see, we have that allowance section, my class totals, and then
We may not have any rooms for this
Okay.
estimate, full disclosure.
Gotcha.
But if you
That's
would,
neat that it's smart enough to know, like, it's not going to put a big empty, section that won't look good if there's nothing to include. Okay, so it looks like there's some options here for maybe advanced settings on like how many even decimal points or decimal places we want to show if we're doing detailed pricing. What about the expiration date? How would we normally use that? Looks like we could just check it off or
yeah, so if you wanted to show like a preparation and expiration date, you can go in and add that section. When you do it, it'll automatically add the date that it was prepared. Now you can go ahead and customize that away from today's date, but then you can do the same thing. So if I wanted to put an expiration date, they need to let us know by 2 weeks. It would update and show just a little chart right up here, prepared and expires, where you can go and include those dates.
I like that too because, as quickly as prices can change, and, of course, you want to, owners need a sense of security that it's not going to change maybe every single day, but also as a contractor, it seems like really putting yourself at risk, perhaps, like to have it just be an indefinite proposal. Like the price might just be different in a month, or that proposal might need to look different. So I like that date can be added. Okay, let's get to it. Looks like as we are scrolling a little bit further down that we're coming to some of the fun options for different styling and colors and things like that. So I know there's a ton of flexibility. Do we want to walk through some of those options here?
Yeah, so you can go through, and anytime you're looking in this branding, that's where we really start to customize those branding options and making it look more realistic to your company and your aesthetic that you like for your company's branding. So, for example, if I wanted to adjust the color of my column headings, I can go in and see that that table header has been updated to kind of the same brown right here. I can also go in and customize any of my borders. So if I do not like the border look, I can remove that, or I can make them really heavy, whichever I prefer. So you get a lot of customization there.
I see. That looks a little strange. Okay, can I try it? Let's
Yeah.
see. So we've got a heavy
Vertical border.
Okay, but if I wanted that to also just be none, we could just take it away. Or we could go thin. We could go thin here. I see. So there's a lot that we could really do realistically if we wanted to. I mean, seems like there's a lot of customization just there. Okay, and then again, kind of fun to play around with. What are some of these options? I guess it looks like I've got really here we're just customizing really all of these different headings that we're seeing throughout.
Right. So it kind of shows you. So, like right here for the estimate proposal, I can go in and change that. So, if I just wanted to call this the estimate, I can go in and delete that and it would update my table header to just say estimate. I can go through and do things like right here if I want to change some of these labels as I scroll down. So for example, let's see if I can find a good one. So I'm not trying to make everyone dizzy again, but I'm just going to scroll to the bottom. So right here, if we have like our alternate section or allowances or estimate subtotal, I can go in and customize that estimate subtotal. And let's say I want to just call it subtotal. I can go in and update that and it would change that wording here. So I get a lot of control over how each of those is pulling in. And I can go in and really customize, like if I just want to call this classifications, I can do that.
I know one question we got a lot when this tool first came out was, okay, does it have to say name at the top every time? So you can also just do things like get rid of that. Notice that that happens instantly. Choose where bold text is being used, how zeros are displayed. So there's definitely a lot of options here. Um, So let's see. I know that, and just looking at some of these questions. Oh, yeah, someone actually just asked, okay, can you get rid of name and total in each section? You definitely can, and that's super quick and easy to do with that checkbox there. We also introduced this past year an option to add a watermark. So if we wanted to, well, I mean, what's the use case for this? I guess most commonly is like, hey, this is not final or, preliminary only or something.
Yeah, and this was actually a client feature request that got implemented by some of our clients who use it for things like for budgetary purposes only in case of like cost plus of, hey, this is what we're expecting, but of course, as part of your cost plus contract, those material prices may change. Or for something like preliminary proposal or, hey, this is a first draft, anything that you want to show up, you can either have it be that horizontal or you can tile it across the entire thing, whichever you prefer.
Oh, wow. So we can be really very clear and obvious. Yeah, that's very nice. I mean, because I think that's part of what the proposal is. Really, it's a communication tool with clients. So the more clear we can be on everything, I think the better. That kind of comes to a couple of the other options that we want to touch on, and we know we're kind of running out of time, but we'll make sure that we cover these last options as well. You can, of course, customize at the bottom how many signature lines there are and what the labels on them say. So if we, some of the defaults are things like witness or contractor or owner signature, but we could really just get rid of that line. We could, change this again. Maybe we want it to say builder signature, and get that updated. And then talk to me a little bit, Carly, about the default text. So it looks like we've got some really great contract language built in. What's this doing and how does it work?
So with the contract language, you are actually able to go in and upload any of your own legal language through the default text. Now you can do this directly in the proposal wizard using this manage default text button, or you can do it in your company dropdown when you're just on your main ConstructionOnline page. Either way, you would be able to go in and insert any contract language that you want, either above or below your estimate proposal, which would then put all of that information in.
Very nice. Okay, so two things that I want to make sure we go ahead and cover as well before we wrap up. Probably our two biggest things, and we did have one great question come in about this, is these options are fantastic. Do I have to do all this every time though? Like so let's say I go through, I do all the options, I get everything exactly how I want it to be. Can I save it? What's our best recommended practice here?
Yeah, so you can save changes to it. So all you have to do is click this button right here, and you're just going to save that as a preset. Now, when you save it as a preset, all you have to do is name it, and it will then appear all the way at the top. So again, not trying to make everyone dizzy. But if I go right here, I can go in and do, for example, we have our master proposal template. And you can see that I have all of my customizations in with my different branding. And you can have as many of these as you want with however different combinations you want.
Okay, great. That's what I was going to ask. Let's say I have a format that I want to use maybe for that preliminary, and it's going to have a watermark on it. Maybe it has different types of detail or different types of custom text on it. So I could actually have 2 or 3 or 10 of these presets or templates saved so that I can just get back to that very quickly anytime I'm coming in.
Correct.
That is awesome. Okay. So I know one thing we were really excited to introduce today is the next step. So, our next couple of steps here in making this proposal, one is just going to be to hit that create button when we get it how we want. And that's going to generate a PDF. So that's what it's always done. But one new thing that we have introduced just this week is an integration with Docusign. So I know that a lot of um, people use Docusign as really an industry standard for doing things like requesting signatures and tracking the progress on that. And we've certainly had questions. People would ask, like, hey, can I use Docusign with this? And even though there's been some compatibility, this is the first time that we've introduced a true integration where you can access your Docusign account right within Construction Online. Can we talk a little bit about how that works and really what the benefits are for our users?
Yeah, absolutely. So, digital signatures, especially with something like DocuSign, they can really help streamline the proposal process. They help you with speed and convenience of just getting it out the door, sending it over to your client, getting a signature, and then being able to track all of those details in Construction Online. So, for example, if we hit send with DocuSign, it would prompt me to go ahead and save my report to Construction Online. Once I hit save, it'll take me to my DocuSign settings. I can either choose to send without a DocuSign template, or if I already have a DocuSign account that has templates loaded into it, I would be able to choose that once I connect to my DocuSign account.
Gotcha. So essentially, what we're seeing here, like you've already connected to your DocuSign account. So there's just a little switch that you flip, you sign in to DocuSign so it knows the two are connected. And now you can access things like your templates in DocuSign. And then our next step, it looks like, is to, I gotcha, set up the email. And this email is being sent out of DocuSign, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, but if we wanted it to say something special, this is where we could set up some templates even inside of Construction Online to do that, it looks like.
Right. You can also go through and set your recipients. So these are the people who will receive that DocuSign envelope and set the signing order. So, for example, if I wanted to send this to one of my clients, I can type in their name and it would pull up their name and their Construction Online email. When I hit send, it would then generate my DocuSign envelope. And when it opens up in DocuSign, I'm able to go in, add all of my signatures to that package, either initials, stamps, any of my DocuSign fields, both my standard and my custom ones that I may have set up in my DocuSign account. And then once done, I would be able to just hit send. It would package up that envelope and send it on to my client link user.
Very nice. Now, do you have an example of one that you've already done? Like, let's say we send it out of DocuSign. When I'm in Construction Online, can I see that I did that, or can I see if they've signed it? Like, what happens next?
Yeah, so once you have it in Construction Online, you can track that DocuSign detail right here. You'll get a little note that it was either created or sent. Once it's signed by the person, you would also see a notification that says the signed date. Super simple to access that. All you have to do is right click and hit view detail. Then you can go in, see the information about the file itself, go in and add any notes or comments. And then right here under DocuSign, you can see this DocuSign envelope was created, it's been sent. You would also be able to go ahead and check on there, but go ahead and see, like, once they reply, you'd be able to see things like, hey, they've signed it on this day at this time.
Okay, very nice. It looks like you're getting a lot of great information here. One other question that I wanted to ask, and looks like we've had some questions coming in. So again, we'll just try to get to as many of those as we can. But I know one question was, okay, is this just for proposals, or can it can it be for other things? Like if I just have something else in here or a different kind of report, can I get I don't know, like a PO signed maybe, or can I get something else signed, or how does that work?
Absolutely. All you have to do is just right click on the document in question and you can hit send to Docusign. So, for example, on that one, you can hit send with Docusign and it would do the exact same thing. It would open up the file, you would go through all your steps, add your signatures, and hit send.
Okay, very nice. Now, one question that someone did ask is, okay, what if we don't have a DocuSign account? Can we still use it? So there's really two answers to this. The first answer is you can still use it, but you will need to get a DocuSign account. There is an option within Construction Online to even go ahead and sign up for a DocuSign account for free. So, as long as your company is able to do that, like you can just sign up, and I think it's done by person, so each person in your company can do that. So there is an option to sign up for a free DocuSign account. It is compatible with those free account levels as well as business account levels. Of course, you can visit DocuSign's website for more information on the different levels that they offer. I think with the free accounts, you might be limited to a certain number of sends per month or week, or something like that. So I know there might be a little bit of limitation in terms of how many. So you'll maybe just want to assess your volume. So it does require, using this functionality is going to require having a DocuSign account, but the folks over at DocuSign have made that super easy to do, even just signing up for free. So that is something that you'll be able to do.
I think we even offer an option to navigate to DocuSign and sign up through the integrations tab. Do you want to show that off, Holly?
I think that we do. I know. I'll just show everyone really quick the if you whether you have a DocuSign account or not, if you want to use this functionality, you'll go to your settings menu in the top right. You're going to choose your integrations. And when that comes up, you'll just see a new option for document signing, and you can turn on the option for DocuSign. Um, this one is already turned on. However, when you go into yours for the first time, it won't be, and you'll have options to either sign up for a free DocuSign account. There'll just be a button or a link right there, or you can flip that integration on and enter your credentials. So it does make it really easy to access and get all of that set up right within Construction Online, just to get you going and signing, as quickly as possible. Let's see. It looks like I don't know. I don't know that we're going to get to all the questions today, but someone did also ask a great question that I'd like to address, which someone said, "Hey, can you um, add a link not only to sign it, but maybe be able to accept a payment or a deposit?" And the answer to that question is not today, but I'm excited to report that we are working on payment processing options as we speak. So our development team is hard at work on that. We know that getting paid is an important part of your business process, and so we are working on some options and partnerships that will allow you to come into Construction Online, set up to be able to accept payments directly through the Construction Online platform when working with your clients. So of course, I don't have all the details on how to do that or anything to show you, but I did want to just address that question because I think it's a great one, and we are thinking ahead to that next step, and working on options to make that part easier for you as well. So I know we are a little bit over, Carly. As we wrap up, I think we've covered a lot of great ground today. A couple of things that I always like to just touch on here at the end is just some of those questions about access. So I did want to mention that the OnPoint proposal wizard um, that we went through today, that is something that is available to all Construction Online paid users. So if you have access to a paid Construction Online account, if you have access to estimating, you will be able to use that proposal wizard. So that is something that everyone will be able to use and access. The Docusign integration is available at the team account level and above. So if you have any version, residential, commercial, specialty at that team or above level, you are able to integrate with your Docusign account. Um, Carly, what else would you add, or how else would you close us out today? I know one question that we always get is recording, but we did record this. What are our next steps?
So, next steps would be you can expect an email with that recording once it's available, along with a few free resources that we are putting together for you that you can get as kind of a thank you for attending our webinar. Additionally, if you do have questions that you come up with maybe after the webinar, or maybe a question you asked today didn't get answered, we will be following up with all of those to make sure that you are able to get all your information. And if you want to go ahead, let's say you're on a pro and you're interested in trying the Docusign integration, we'd be more than happy to set you up with a team trial. So please feel free to go ahead and reach out to us. We're happy to go over all of that together.
All right, wonderful. Well, absolutely. So, thank you guys so much for joining today. We appreciate you taking some time out of your workday, or perhaps your lunchtime to join us and learn more about the capabilities in Construction Online. Until next time, we hope you have a great rest of your week.